And good evening, my lovely Lost Tales, and welcome back to the Blue Rose Respite for my fantastical Friday stream. How are you all doing, my lovelies? It is still blisteringly hot here in London, but I am staying strong as best I can. I have my little fan next to me. I've got my hair braided back and everything. It is hot today. How's it going, my lovelies? It's so good to see you again. I hope you're all in the mood for some beautiful sapphic vampires, because we are playing some more Cage of Roses tonight, and I will be narrating as best I can. Oh, Scaracomi! Oh, it's so wonderful that you're, like, vibing with us tonight and you've got your girlfriend with you. That's wonderful. I hope everyone in the UK and just internationally in general, mostly in the Northern Hemisphere, is staying nice and cool, because it is really, really hot here in the UK in particular. So, stay hydrated, maybe eat some ice cream, like, just chill. Just chill out. Although we are playing a vampire romance visual novel, so I'm not sure how long things will stay cool for long, if you catch my meaning. How's it going, my lovelies? I've had a very busy week. My next ASMR tale is all good to go for tomorrow. And I've also reached a huge milestone on my other super secret creative project, which I can't talk about yet, but I can soon. It's changed from I can't talk about this for a while to I can talk about this soon. You're just gonna have to wait just a little bit longer. I'm doing good, Steph. I too am also surviving the heat right now and had a fairly slow work day yesterday, but I'm super excited to see more Cage of Roses. Hell yes. My AC is working again. I'm doing a lot better than the start of this week. That's good. Glad to hear that, Sam. Question, do we have the chance to voice redeem tonight? You know what? I'm in slightly better energy tonight, so I would say yes. Sometimes it's a little tricky for incorporating voice redeems when I have to do a lot of narration, like in a visual novel that doesn't have any voice acting. But I can try my best to incorporate it a little bit. Drink lots of water, but you lose electrolytes in this heat, so try to have some electrolytes, drinks, and salty snacks handy. Well, good thing I've got 2 scoopfuls of pre-workout in this, and it's like a strawberry, I think it's like strawberry, some mix of strawberry and some other fruit flavored pre-workout, so it's getting my electrolytes going, absolutely. I'm wonderful, Stephanie, just chilling out in my local game shop assembling some 40k knight armatures. The AC is free here, it's nice to get out of the house and touch grass. What's that like? Lord Azul, that sounds fantastic. And yeah, go support your local game store. Fantastic way to beat the heat. Go support your local game store. Like, paint some minis, look at what's available, maybe ask some questions about a game that you've been keeping your eye on or you're interested in playing. Like, go support small businesses. Hell yes. Soon, so, what, Half-Life, Silk Song, Elder Scrolls, and Kingdom Hearts. Oh, no. I'll be able to talk about it eventually. Just chill. Get off my ass, okay? My dog got a new squeaky toy, he's going crazy. That's so cute. Oh, that's so sweet. That's awesome. We can touch grass. I can't touch grass, I eat it all. Today and tomorrow, and I think it continues on to Sunday, but it's mostly today and tomorrow, is Midsummer. So it's the hottest days and the longest days of the year here in the Northern Hemisphere. So a part of me is like, I should really get out, go literally touch grass and like soak in the sunlight. But it's hot as hell outside and I don't like getting sunburned. No, thank you. But a gentle reminder that I am still raising funds for Mermaids, which is a trans and non-binary charity here in the UK. We've already reached over halfway, but we are getting down to the last 10 days of the month. It would be absolutely incredible if we could reach the £200 goal. I'm not quite sure what happens if we don't reach that goal at the end of the month. If the money, don't think the money would be refunded. I think it's just like we don't reach the goal, but the money still goes to the charity. But I would really, really love it if we were able to hit £200 by the end of Pride Month, because I'm really trying to use my platform to do some good and support the trans community here in the UK. So every little bit little bit goes a long way, and a big thank you to everyone who's donated already. If you want to find out more about the charity, what their operations are, what they're like, then type in !charity and it'll come up with a bit more information about them, as well as a link to their website. Waiting for the secret project announcement feels a little like waiting for Half-Life 3. You won't be waiting that much longer. Maybe like another week or two. I've just got to get things in order and then I can talk about it, okay? Just playing with some cards. I got some Cobalt playing cards, the same as the kind used in casinos. Oh, are they the really cool ones that move really smoothly and you can do like really cool sleight of hand card tricks with them? Like, I've seen some TikTok videos about card magicians and people who do sleight of hand magic showing off some really, really cool cards, and they're gorgeous. You get some gorgeous decks of cards out there. Alrighty, so are you guys ready for some more Cage of Roses? Because this game, it does require a lot of focus with all the voice acting I have to do for all the narration. It does drain my energy quite a bit, and it is very hot outside, so we're just gonna see how things go for the evening. On the plus side, at least you don't need to deal with bin chickens in this bloody heat. That's very true. We don't have bin chickens over here in the UK. And you know what? I kind of miss it. I'm an Aussie. I miss the fucking bin chickens. I miss the fucking bin chickens. Weaver, thank you so much for the £15 donation towards mermaids. Holy shit. Weaver, you've already donated so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for the £15 donation. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Weaver. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Alrighty. So, let us settle in for more Cage of Roses. I am streaming, I'm recording, I'm doing all the things I should be doing. Where was I? I think I was here. Scaracomi! Sapphic Scaracomi, thank you so much for the £5 donation towards mermaids. Thank you so much, Scaracomi. Every little bit of support goes a long way, and we get a little bit closer towards reaching our goal of £200. Thank you so much for the £5 donation, Scaracomi. Thank you. Oh. Alrighty. Let's settle in, shall we? Magdalena slept upon Meke's shoulder undisturbed, heedless of the cool breeze which caressed her cheeks and the rain which continued to fall. Her pale skin remained cold and unyielding during her slumber, and her cheeks refused to pinken at the wind's behest. All the while, as she slept, Meke watched her, her fingers curled about the handle of her parasol. As they sat there, their bodies pressed close, Meke found herself wishing they could stay as they were, time slowing, then stopping for good. Time did not stop, however, and Magdalena eventually awoke some half an hour hence. She did not speak of what happened after drawing away from Meke, but she did suggest, after stretching, that they return to her home. The delights of her garden had been exhausted, and it was still raining. Magdalena had not wanted to remain outdoors when the weather was so foul. Meke had no words of complaint to offer, so she and Magdalena rose. Magdalena put her hat upon her head anew, and the two once again entered her vast, dilapidated home. God, they're so pretty. Here we are, home sweet home. Magdalena announced this to the cavernous room full of decades' worth of undisturbed dust, then wrinkled her nose. That's what I would like to call it, at least, but it really isn't much to look at. I am always struck, when I see this place in the sun's light, by just how run down this place is. It's a wonder I haven't contracted a cough, having lived here for so long. I suppose we vampires are a hardy sort, though I do worry about you. The dust isn't irritating your eyes, is it? I'll be fine. Meke reassured Magdalena, though, in all honesty, her eyes were beginning to water. The air smelled fetid, and each inhalation made her nostrils, not to mention the back of her throat, tingle. She could taste the dust upon her tongue, so thick it turned her stomach. She had almost begun to acquaint herself with the general decay of Magdalena's home, having lived among it for so long, but the few hours she had spent outdoors had undone all her familiarity with her surroundings. Magdalena's abode felt strange and inhospitable once more, In part, Make supposed, because it was. Humans weren't supposed to live like this, in our unloved homes, choked with old age and their own neglect. But Magdalena wasn't human. Oh, Scaracomi, thank you so much for the 70 bits! Oh, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Oh. That's so sweet. Thank you so much for the support. But Magdalena wasn't a human. Human needs did not apply to her, not when her own desires were so very unusual. Mega had learned during her walk that Magdalena did need to sleep, however, a fact which made her seem more personable. In some ways, she mightn't have been so very dissimilar to a human after all. So, are you feeling alright? Your face is very pale. My face is always pale. It comes with the territory. I've no blood of my own, you know. Not like you. I couldn't work up a hearty blush even if I tried. I know that much, but your under eyes are still very dark. Oh, point out all my imperfections, why don't you? You have a way of making a girl feel rather exposed, Mike. I'm almost embarrassed. I didn't mean to embarrass you. I was only concerned. I know. You really are too nice for your own good. I doubt many other women would care for the welfare of their captors half so much. But you are not, as I've since gathered, a typical woman. That you would risk your own life for your maids is remarkable in and of itself. I'm not so special, really. I disagree. I've lived for a very long time, and I don't believe I've met anyone quite like you before. Not that I've been in the habit of receiving guests during the last century, I suppose. I doubt my compliments are worth all that much, given my limited frame of reference. You may disregard them, if you like, but I mean what I said. I don't tell lies. Why then, Mickey longed to ask, did you not tell me about those marks on your arm? Why did you say it was nothing when it was clearly something? What are you hiding? Okay, we've got our first Pick My Voice of the evening from Weaver of Passion. Since Steph's got a little bit of Lara Croft vibe going with the ponytail, and since we're playing a lesbian visual novel, I think now would be a good time to hear what Steph's Lara Croft impression sounds like. Okay, fun story. I was actually booked a role for like a fan project that was kind of a like voice acted kind of Tomb Raider fanfic sort of thing very early in my voice acting career, and I got the part. I was supposed to play Lara Croft, and we talked about it for about a month. Never heard from the guy again, and it was just a free job. It was just to get some more practice and exposure and stuff. But yeah, never ended up recording any lines for it or anything like that. And I think it's like well over 7 years ago or something at this point. But I do have a little bit of experience trying to play Lara Croft, and now I'm trying to... Because truth be told, I'm more familiar with her from the films than anything else. Svala Holder, thank you so much for the 48-month resub. Happy Midsummer, Stephanie, and happy Midsummer to you as well, Svala Holder. I hope you're having a wonderful celebration of this gloriously bright time of year. Thank you so, so much for the... Is that 2 months? No, that's... I'm so sorry, that's a 4-year of resub. Thank you so much, Svala Holder, for your 4 full years of support. It's absolutely incredible and hugely appreciated. Thank you so much. Alright, I'll try and read the next few lines more in Lara Croft sort of voice, if that makes sense to you. Why then, Mickey longed to ask, did you not tell me about those marks on your arm? Why did you say it was nothing when it was clearly something? What are you hiding? Mickey stared at Magdalena but found no immediate answers to her queries. It seemed that Magdalena's wounds would remain a mystery. Would Magdalena ever trust her enough to be fully honest, or would Mickey succumb to blood loss before that happened? That was an unpleasant thought. It was in a down mood that Meike crossed the entrance hall, her footsteps echoing, and ascended the stairs. All of a sudden, she too felt awfully exhausted. The Storykeeper, thank you so very much for the £5 support towards mermaids. It's absolutely incredible. Every little bit goes a long way. Thank you so much, Storykeeper, for your incredible generosity. Thank you. Meike took the stairs slowly, Magdalena close by. She gave the banisters a wide berth, for they were so covered in dust, and instead kept her arms straight, hanging at her sides like a soldier's. The grand staircase had so many steps, an unnecessary number, or so it seemed to Meike. There was no small difficulty navigating them. Meike continued on, determined, placing one foot after another, but she felt unsteady. Magdalena, sensing Meike's exhaustion, surveyed her with some concern. "And you asked whether I was all right. You seem positively dead on your feet. Are you sure you would not care for my assistance now, my lady?" "I'll be fine," Meike said vaguely as Magdalena proffered her arm, but this time Magdalena refused to take no for an answer. "Oh, don't give me that. I won't have you slipping and tumbling to the ground. Not down a staircase like this. Why, you could break your neck. It would be a quick way to go, if nothing else. Let's not be macabre about it, Meike. It doesn't suit you. Would you rather I smile?" That was what Meike's mother had always demanded of her. "That might be asking too much, I fear, but I would rather see you all in one piece, yes. For a vampire, you're awfully considerate. I've got to take good care of my guests, haven't I? Or your prey. These two states are not mutually exclusive." Magdalena spoke lightly, but Meike thought she could see a flicker of hurt passing across Magdalena's face. Her remark must have nettled her. There. Magdalena looped her arm through Meike's, cinching their bodies together like two entwined flower stems. "Now you're less likely to take a spill as we ascend the stairs. And if I do, I would drag you down after me. Plotting to my demise, are you? I admire your brazenness, but it'll take more than that to best me." "And what of the creature that bit you?" Meike wished to ask. "Did that best you?" Meike did not ask, however. She feared further inquiry would only upset Magdalena, and she did not want that. Magdalena might have been Meike's enemy, but she was also, paradoxically, her only ally. Meike had wanted to believe, still wanted to believe in fact, that Magdalena cared for her. But her caring seemed a fleeting sort of thing, something which could be discarded when she required more blood, which she would. Meike turned these thoughts over in her head while slowly ascending the stairs, her arm entwined with Magdalena's. "Oh?" But a sound soon startled her from her morose reverie, a sound she could recall hearing once before, when Magdalena first escorted her through the entrance hall to her new lodgings. It was the sound, though faint, of a scream. Meike's back stiffened, her body tensed against Magdalena's, and rather than push the other woman away, she held her closer still. With wide, alert eyes, Meike glanced around. Magdalena had attributed these noises to the wind when Meike had first heard them, but now Meike knew, had always known, in fact, that this was a lie. The wind could not make noises such as this, and, in any event, though it was a cold day, it was not blustery enough to procure such sounds. They must have emitted from a person's throat. Though what horrors this person must have endured to scream like that remained a mystery. "Magdalena?" Meike looked at Magdalena anxiously, her eyes wide with curious fear. "What is that sound?" Magdalena, for her part, looked almost as fearful as Meike was. There was no surprise present upon her countenance, but Meike could see that she was gritting her teeth. Had Magdalena any blood in her body, it surely would have abandoned her upon hearing those screams. That sound is... Don't say that it's nothing. It's not nothing. I just heard it again. Whoever is making those sounds must be in a lot of pain. Or else they must be very distressed. And whoever said that is a person who is making those sounds. It must be. I can't think of what else would scream so fitfully. And no, I don't believe that it is the wind. Do you have any more prisoners locked away in this castle that you're not telling me about? Believe me, Meke, you would be far happier believing it to be the wind. No good will come from prying into these affairs. But I want to know. I know you want to know. That is the problem with you. You want to know everything. Well, I'm sorry, but I must keep some of my own secrets. I've been alive for over a century and have had ample amount of time to accrue them. I doubt I'm alone in this. I'm sure you have some subjects you do not wish to speak of either. Magdalena's red-eyed gaze held Meke's, her irises hard and unflinching. Meke thought, as Magdalena stared, of Walter Gerhard and their engagement, and her feelings, or lack of, towards him, and she winced. Magdalena was right. She had plenty of secrets she didn't want to discuss further. There was a difference in the severity of their secrets, however. Walter was not, as far as Meke knew, currently incarcerated within the walls of this castle, screaming. Not yet, at least. If I am to live in this castle, I ought to know who else is residing beneath its roof. No, you really oughtn't. It's better this way. Also, I think that comes to the end of the Pick My Voice. Thank you so much for requesting Lara Croft of all characters, Weaver. I really hope you enjoyed it. Like, she speaks in a very authoritative English voice, so I hope that was delivered well. No, you really oughtn't. It's better this way. But... Meke, please, this is my cross to bear, not yours. You've no need to worry about it. Appeasing the mistress is my job. Okay. The mistress? Meke repeated this phrase, seemingly innocuous at first blush, yet containing with it a wealth of unspoken secrets. You make an excellent Lara Croft, Stephanie. Why, thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. And hey, JP Val, how's it going? Welcome back. So there was somebody else residing in Magdalena's abode after all, somebody Magdalena referred to as her mistress. That must mean that this mysterious person, this mystery woman, held some degree of authority over Magdalena. What, though, could be more powerful than a vampire? Vampire's maker, perhaps? Who was this mistress, and why had Meke never met her? Why was she screaming so, as though she was being tortured? What is going on, Magdalena? That is not such a complex question, at least. Magdalena smiled, but it was an ill-fitting smile, which hung awkwardly on her lips, like a dress that had been taken into the waist 2 inches too many. She must be hungry. She is awfully insistent like that. I was hoping to put this off, but it seems I will have to take more of your blood tonight, after all. I'd wanted to give you a brief reprieve from your duties, but it is not to be. I have duties of my own to attend to, after all, and my mistress can be very exacting indeed. Ooh, another bloodletting scene? Meke sat upon the edge of her bed later that night, one arm extended at Magdalena's behest. It was the same arm she had extended to Magdalena the night prior, split with a thin scar like a garish piece of twine. Magdalena's fingers curled around the underside of Meke's arm to better hold it steady. In her free hand, the one which was not occupied with Meke, Magdalena held a knife, the sharp blade sharp and silvery even in the weak, wispy moonlight which spilled through Meke's drawn curtains. Hey, it's all good, JP. It's all good. Everyone has life stuff going on, so I completely understand. Just hold still now. There's a good girl. I'll not take more blood than is needed. I can promise you that much. This will all be over in an instant. Meke knew Magdalena meant well, but part of her wished that her captor's fingers would slip and she would nick a major artery, which would douse her skirts and her sheets bright red. Magdalena's motions were well practiced, however, just as they had been the night before. Her gloved fingers did not wobble, though her resolve might have, as she introduced the blade to the inside of Meike's arm. Meike shivered to feel the cold steel pressed against her flesh. Magdalena had not cut, not yet at least, but she could feel the edge of the blade and knew of the pain it promised. She'd endured that pain once before already. Had that not been enough? The anticipation was unnerving. Meike began to shiver. If you're going to do it, then can you please hurry? I cannot stand the waiting. Why is she using a knife when she's a vampire? So in the previous, not the previous stream, but the stream before that, we got to a point in the story where it was revealed that she's gathering the blood in a bowl for someone else, and she's not drinking it herself. So that's why I imagine she's not biting her. It's more for blood collecting rather than blood drinking, at least for Magdalena at right now. And because she's a lady, exactly. My apologies. I'd hoped to prepare you for it. But I suppose pain is not something one can really prepare for, not even if they have a fair warning. I've seen hardier men than you cry at my heels, though I never cared to be half so gentle with them. I don't much want to do this myself, but... well, never mind that. I will cut now. Hold your breath, and maybe close your eyes if you must. It might help. Meike began, yet was unable to finish. Magdalena, true to her word, had moved her hand, the blade once inert, now slicing into Meike's flesh. Magdalena scored the blade across the inside of Meike's arm, an inch beneath her previous incision. Pain flared up inside Meike in an instant, hot like all the flames of hell. Fortunately for Meike, however, the incision was made quickly and cleanly, the blade retracted before Magdalena had a chance to truly register what had occurred. A bowl was soon placed beneath Meike's cut, into which Meike bled, rivulets of crimson trickling down her pale skin and into the basin beneath. Meike did not look at her cut. She could not bear to, but she could feel her life's blood oozing from her. It was incredible just how much the human body could bleed. The last cut Magdalena had inflicted had been thinner than a paper cut, yet it had bled profusely. Meike wondered whether this blood was meant for Magdalena, or whether she meant to give it to her mistress, the one who had cried earlier, who had been hungry. That must have been where Meike's blood had gone last night. Meike had thought it odd Magdalena had not partaken of her blood in a more direct manner. What was the point in possessing such sharp incisors if one did not use them? By this point, Meike felt as though she had bled for an indeterminate time. Her thoughts were beginning to slow, to become muddled. Her arm stung and she felt sick. She did not want to look at the slick, sleek crimson which daubed her skin, nor Magdalena's pale, pinched face. She was afraid that Magdalena would look just as upset, if not more so, than she did herself, and Meike couldn't bear that. She did not want to pity Magdalena now, not when she felt so innervated. Oh, she's begging to be bitten. I'm just like counting down the seconds that, or every time Meike says like, I'm so surprised she did not like choose to bite me herself, and I'm thinking like, how many times is she gonna think that before she finally accepts you are gay? And also she really wants Magdalena to bite her. Oh, thank you for the hydrate check. I think that should be enough. Meike heard a soft thud as the offertory bowl was set aside. Then she felt something soft and wet dab at the inside of her arm, against the cut which still continued to bleed. Magdalena must have been wiping her cut clean with a kerchief. Finally, Meike chanced to crack her eye open. Her eyelashes fluttered as she surveyed Magdalena, the world, once blurry, now sliding into focus, like a dial turned on a telescope. I'm sorry to do this to you, Meike. Not that my apologies mean very much, I suppose. It's not like anything I could say now could erase all I have done. Denial is a river in Egypt! Oh no! Hang on. Sorry, I just got itch on my shoulder. Ah. With Meike's blood having been collected, Magdalena soon took her leave. She tucked the bowl against her side, her slender fingers curled about it, then exited Mickey's chamber, closing the door behind her with a thud. There was the familiar click of a lock, which seemed to echo inside Mickey's skull, then silence. Mickey was once more quite alone. Why didn't she bite me? I don't want her to bite me, I think, but I just can't stop thinking about Magdalena. Left weary after the day's events and the inside of her arms still stinging, Mickey lay down upon her bed and looked to the ceiling. A yawn forced its way from her parted lips, and her eyelids began to droop. Before she allowed sleep to claim her, however, she felt her thoughts turning to Magdalena. She thought of the dark bruises beneath her eyes, from the lack of sleep, or so she had said, and the sickly pale pallor of her skin, white as leprosy. She thought of the violent red marks which ringed her wrist, which she had hurried to hide. She thought of the screaming she had heard while tarrying in the entrance hall, and of the way Magdalena had flinched to hear it, and her reassurances, feeble though they were, that those screams were not for Mickey to trouble herself over. Appeasing the mistress is supposed to be my job. Who was this mysterious mistress of whom Magdalena spoke? Mickey knew not, but she must have been somebody with leverage over Magdalena, powerful enough that even a vampire would grovel before them. Mickey turned over in her bed, the wooden frame creaking in protest, and trembled. At least now she could say for certain that she and Magdalena were not alone in this castle. There was another person sequestered away in one of the many rooms Mickey had never before been in, Magdalena's mysterious mistress. It was somewhat satisfying to have her earlier suspicions proven right, but Mickey did not feel any more at ease now than she had upon waking that morning. If anything, it was the exact opposite. How awful must Magdalena's mistress be if even Magdalena was afraid of her? Mickey hardly dared to imagine it. If she allowed her imagination to run riot, as the roses in Magdalena's garden did, she feared she would never be able to sleep again. Okay, we got an achievement for reading the second act. Okay, we're into Act 3. The World in Monochrome. Interesting. Okay. Okay. I'm gonna save quickly. Just to be safe. I'm gonna save to be safe. Okay. Sunday eventually arrived, after what seemed entirely too long, and with it came Henny's visit to St. Cecilia's to see Father Devorak. Agnes accompanied Henny on this excursion, strolling beside her with an indefinite spring to her step. St. Cecilia's wasn't too far away from Walter Gerhardt's home, and the two women made it to the church's impressive stone edifice in good time. Once inside the building, both Agnes and Henny took a seat upon the pews, to wait patiently for the sermon to begin. Hi. That looks like a man I could make so much worse. Damn, I should have worn my black lipstick tonight. Fuck! Damn it! When the congregation was seated, a man took to the pulpit. He cut a tall, striking figure, dressed primarily in black, his arms and legs slender and his hair dark and glossy. Even from a distance, Henny could tell he was a young man, his cheekbones high, his face devoid of wrinkles. Henny wasn't sure how old she would place him exactly, but she didn't think him to be much more than 25. Curious, she glanced at Agnes and murmured, "Is that Father Devorak?" "Yes, that's right." "Oh, I'm so glad he's here. I was worried he mightn't be. Then our trip would be for nothing." "This is quite the relief. But it's too early to ask him any questions. You'll have to wait until the sermon is over." He has such a way with words, though. His sermons are never a bit dull. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. You know what? He kind of... I feel bad. If this was a live action adaptation, he would like totally be played, at least in my opinion, by Andy Biersack, the lead singer of Black Veil Brides, who also looks very hot when dressed as a priest, I'm just saying. Mistrustfully, Henny glanced back at Father Devorak. She was in too anxious of a state to think overly much of anything save rescuing Mickey. Enjoying herself seemed a foreign concept to the young maid ever since she had fled from Magdalena's home. There would be time enough for fun later. Henny was doubtful that the priest would be able to aid her as Agnes claimed. She had thought that he would be older. Truly capable men, the sort self-made business owners like Walter Gerhard quoted while smoking cigars in their studies, often seemed to be in their 50s or 60s, with domed foreheads and arched brows. Henny knew little about capable men, but she knew this, having seen the plaster busts of Seneca and Aristotle upon Walter's desk. Father Devorak seemed little more than a boy when compared to these ancient philosophers, and this was not enough to make Henny discard his potential help outright. Cautiously intrigued by what the father might have to say, Henny settled upon the pew to listen. I just googled this band for the first time. Am I wrong, Sam? Can you see the vision? And yeah, and Andy, the lead singer, is so hot. Like, it should be illegal to be that hot. And so pretty. Oh, look, another hydrate check. I'll do one just for you. It must be all the electrolytes going through me right now. She sat in silence as Father Devorak spoke, and as she did so, Henny felt his voice wash over her. It was, after all, as Agnes had said, Father Devorak's voice was a sonorous one, which seemed to fill the church despite not being overly loud, sweet as milk and honey, and just as enticing. You guys are gonna... I'm not sure if you guys are gonna be on board with the voice I have in mind for him, but I'm gonna give it a try. I'm going it off the way it's described, and also his last name sounds like Eastern European, maybe Czech or Russian, so that's where I'm gonna be dipping into the accent. As Father Devorak spoke, his eyes swept over the assembled faces of his congregation. They were very dark eyes, Henny noticed, a rich brown which was soulful when serious. The father's gaze seemed to settle midway during the sermon upon Henny. It seemed as though he was looking straight through her, divining all her anxieties, which made Henny fluster. Suddenly shy, she averted her gaze to look at her interwoven fingers lying on her lap. Agnes had been right about his oratory gifts, but what of his ability to help Meke? That was more important than his ability to espouse at length about God and his many miracles. Henny shifted in her seat as the sermon drew to its close, seized by an uncomfortable anxiety. She had tried not to raise her hopes overly much the night prior, for fears of being disappointed, but she could no longer contain herself. Her anticipation ran deep, just like the ocean. If he could not aid her, who could? Henny knew of nobody else to turn to. This Father Devorak, young though he was the only hope she had left. Okay, I'm gonna, when we get to Father Devorak's voice for his lines, honestly, I was gonna go with Season 2 Victor from Arcane. Like, that kind of, beautiful soft Czech accent, and do my best impression. Hey, Rick Sirk, how's it going? Welcome back. The sermon came to a close after what seemed both too short and too long a time, and with it came a general flurry of activity as the congregation began to stand en masse. Most walked to the church's exit without further preamble, while others paused by the pews of their neighbours to share gossip about the latest goings-on in their homes. Yet a few more stragglers stayed behind to offer their thanks to Father Devorak, who responded with a modest smile. Henny was among these stragglers, though self-consciously she hung back. Doubts had begun to creep up on her, much like shadows. She wanted to speak to Father Devorak, but now she had an opportunity she felt afraid to. She was anxious that all her hopes would be dashed, once and for all, and she would be left with no further recourse to aid Meke. But Henny was a practical woman, and she knew she would accomplish nothing by dithering endlessly. The last of the finely dressed women complimenting the priest dispersed, and the church was almost emptied. Henny stood there still, at her pew, her fingers twisted together at her front. He looks like a Black Butler side character. You know what? I 100% see that. I can 100% see that. Her eyes met Father Devorak's, who looked at her in turn, his head tilted expectantly. It was now or never. Henny would not have been able to forgive herself if she squandered this chance Agnes had given her. It'll be all right, Henrique. Agnes prompted her with a small smile. I won't hang around for you. I wouldn't want to eavesdrop, but I'll be supporting you from afar. Please tell me how everything goes later. I'm eager to hear what Father Devorak has to say. I hope he can be of help. Me too, Agnes, and thank you for suggesting his services to me. I really do appreciate it. Anytime, I'd do anything to help a friend. Beaming brightly, Agnes departed, leaving Henny and Father Devorak alone. Henny inhaled, steeling her nerves, then took a step forth. The sound of her footsteps against St. Cecilia's stone floor sounded improbably loud, and her breath caught in her throat. Father Devorak? Henny addressed the man. Once she was a few paces away from him, both hands clasped at her front. Yes? Father Devorak responded in turn, his brown eyes softening as he saw Henny approach. With that makeup, yeah, that man prays on his knees. I mean, after I'm done with him, he's absolutely going to be kneeling. Okay, you know what? In a weird way, the setting of this story reminds me a lot of the setting of Little Goody Two Shoes. If you've seen my playthrough of Little Goody Two Shoes, one of my favorite games to have come out in the past few years. And it has similar kind of themes of supernatural monsters, a bit of folk horror, as well as like themes about the church and religion and stuff like that. Is there something you would like to ask me? I'm always open for dispensing with advice, particularly if it's a serious issue, which this seems to be. Your expression is awfully grim. Oh, it is? I didn't know. I'm sorry for intruding. I've never been to this parish before, and we've never met. You're not under any obligation to help me, but... No, that isn't true. Gently the father reprimanded Henny, his cheeks dimpling with his boyish smile. As a priest, it's my duty to help everybody, regardless of where they might come from. Your birthplace is of no relevance, though, to me. I will listen to you regardless. Though I would like to know your name first. That would make it easier for us to converse, I think. Oh, yes. My name's Enrique. I don't come from Augsburg, but from a smaller town a little ways away. I used to work for the Von Essen family, and it's on their account that I've come here today, Father. So, you are Frau Enrique, then. I see. And it seems that you are in a spot of bother. Oh, yes. Well, I'm not the one in a bother, really. I'm fine, as you should be able to see. It's my mistress who's in real peril. I tried to talk about her with her fiancé earlier. That would be Herr Gerhard, but he didn't seem to grasp how serious it was. He's not lifted so much as a finger to help Meike, though she was to be his wife. That's why I came to see you. I had no other choice. I don't think anyone else in Augsburg would believe me. Dear me. This does sound like quite the complicated situation you found yourself in, but no matter. I shall listen regardless, and I shall do my best to advise you. I cannot promise I will have an answer for all your problems, but I will try. Let me know if the voice is working. I think it's a good fit, but let me know. First, however, would you care to sit down? You are shaking. Oh, yes, thank you. Henny took a seat upon one of the pews as instructed, while Father Devorak did the same. Facing her, the priest then said, You may continue. Okay, so you're on board with the voice. Good to know, good to know. But before that, you might do better to address me as Johann, rather than Father. It's less formal, and I find it more conducive to putting people at ease. His first name's Johann, that's really cute. Is Johann your name? Father Devorak, Johann rather, nodded. It's easier for more people to get their tongue around Devorak. I know some people have trouble with it. Right, thank you, Father. I mean, Johann. What I want to talk about might sound ridiculous, but believe me, it's no tall tale. I wouldn't have come here on the day of the Lord if it was. I don't hold with wasting people's time, no matter what Herr Gerhard might think. Everything I'm about to tell you is the truth, honest to God. I'll swear it even to the house of the Lord. I saw it all with my own eyes. My mistress, my Meke, she's been abducted by a vampire. Silence fell following Henny's improbable, unbelievable exclamation. The silence seemed to weigh thick inside St. Cecilia's, even thicker than the stone columns which supported its vaulted ceiling. Henny stared at her interwoven fingers, which rested upon her lap, unable to meet Johann's gaze. She was afraid, if she lifted her head, she would see upon his youthful face the same derision with which Walter had regarded her in his study. If she saw scorn in Johann's gaze, she feared all her hopes would wither and die. It was to Henny's immense relief, therefore, that when Johann did break the silence, it was not to admonish her. He sounded bemused more than anything when he said, "A vampire, you say?" "Yes, that's right. There's a vampire that lives in the forest, Father. I mean Johann, and she kidnapped poor Meke. I know this sounds batty, balmy even, but I'm not making it up, I swear. Oh, thank you for the stretch check. And the hydrate check. Thank you. He's a cutie, I must bite him. Get in line! I got first dibs. I choose the neck first. It's what he wears a collar around anyway. My love language is bite. Nom nom nom. Herr Gerhard threatened to send me to an asylum for telling tall tales, but I never would. My mother brought me up better than that. Yes, I believe you. You don't strike me as the insincere sort, and I have no desire to cast any aspersions upon your mother's character. I've never met the woman, but I imagine she must be a godly sort, to raise so astute a daughter. Now, what could you tell me about this vampire? What was she like? When did this happen, and how did you and your unfortunate mistress meet her? Oh, Father. Henny was so relieved at Johann's lack of judgment she could have cried in relief. Tears did begin to sting her eyes. She was so very touched, but she wiped them hastily away. Johann did not seem to think her in need of immediate incarceration, but that might change if she began to sob like a hysterical wench. It was with an immense amount of self-control that Henny inhaled, then launched into her tale. She told Johann about her journey through the forest with the von Essen family, and how their carriage had been attacked by bandits. She told him of Lord and Lady von Essen's untimely deaths, and how she had been able to rescue Meke before the bandits could finish her off too. She told Johann how she had run through the forest, Meke in tow, and as the fog swirled around them, chilling their ankles and sticking her skirts to her legs. Maybe not that much detail, Henny? She told him that Meke had fallen and knocked herself unconscious, and she had feared they would be done for. Unable to run away without her mistress, Henny had tarried while the bandits approached, fearing the worst. She had expected to be disposed of quickly, with a knife through the ribs, but the killing blow had not come. A strange, willowy woman, Magdalena Henny now knew her as, had stepped forth from the fog, which swirled about her, and she had soon dispatched these brigands. Her strength had far outstripped that of an ordinary woman, as had her speed. She had decapitated 3 men, then faced down the 4th, all without pausing. The sheer shock of this had overwhelmed Henny, and she herself had shortly passed out. Upon waking, she had found herself in a cell alongside Meke, and that was when she was reintroduced to their savior and also their captor, their tormentor. Johann listened to all this quietly, and once Henny had finished with her address, sat back, his expression inscrutable. That does sound like quite the alarming turn of events. I do not blame you for being so very shaken. It is admirable that you are able to recount what occurred to me in so lucid a manner. I commend your dedication to your mistress, and your desire to aid her. The pair of you must be awfully close. Yes, we are. Meike is my dearest friend. I've known her since we were both little, and she means the world to me. She's much, much more than my mistress. I've been meaning to find a way to save her for the last 2 weeks, but I've not made any progress. I can't find anyone who will listen to me. And that, I presume, is why you came to me? It is, yes. I was told that you will listen to any problem, no matter what it might be. But if I'm being honest, I'm not sure how you can help. I saw that what the monster is capable of. She's no ordinary human. She cut down 3 fully grown men in only a handful of seconds. It does sound unbelievable, you are correct. But you've no need to fret about that. I have no qualms in believing that strange, powerful beings might exist, hidden in the shadows, that few have borne witness to. Then you don't think I'm lying? If I did, I would surely be a happier man. God, he's just so pretty. He's just so pretty. I bet he looks even prettier when he cries. I bet all that mascara runs down his cheeks and makes a mess. But no, I do not. I can believe your words readily. I would never discount the word of a woman in need. As for your other concern, however... Johann's smile failed him. Frowning now, he recrossed his legs, then sighed. That is a more thorny one. Though I do believe you, I doubt I would be able to confront a creature such as this on my own. I'm only a man myself, and not a great one either. There is little I can feasibly do on my own. So it's rather fortunate that I don't operate on my own. I have a colleague who I think might be of some use to you, Frau Henrique. She should be able to help, should your plight pique her interest, but she isn't present at the moment. If you wish for an audience with her, you'll need to return to this church later tonight, when the sun has set. Do you think you can do that? Oh, yes, of course I can. If you can help my Mickey, you or your colleague, then I'll be more than willing to see you again. I might have to wait until midnight to slip out, but I'll be here as soon as I can. You have my word. Jeroen spoke as though Henny had a choice in the matter, but Henny knew she did not. Johann's offer to help, tenuous though it was all Henny had to grasp. Oh, he's pretty. Her meeting with Jeroen concluded, Henny returned to Walter Gerhardt's home, where she sought to keep both her mind and her body occupied. I'm gonna save. Father Devorak is pretty. Though Sunday was supposedly a day of rest, this held true only in the mornings for Walter Gerhardt's maids. After midday, they are expected to resume their old routine, wiping down banisters, sweeping floors, polishing the silverware, and a myriad of other tasks which kept every moment occupied. The other maids murmured mutinously to themselves as they attended their chores, their malcontent spearheaded by Hermine, but Henny welcomed the work. She was so desperate for a distraction that even Gertrude's sour expression was welcome. It served as a reprieve from her own anxious thoughts, all of which were centered around Meike. Would Jeroen really be able to help her? It was strange he had asked her to visit him later in the day, but Henny supposed he must have his reasons. She would find out soon enough, she supposed, during her second visit to St. Cecilia's. It was hours until the sun would set, however, and so, unlike then, Henny kept herself busy. She deflected Agnes's curious questions about her meeting with Jeroen. I'll explain later, and kept her head down, impervious to Hermine's razor-sharp glares and her occasional whispers of... Why? Oh, that's Hermine! Okay, I am so suspicious of, like, the man of the house. All of his maids look like Meike. And that's really creepy. Like, no. No, that's... no. Why is she still here anyway? She isn't one of us. She doesn't belong here, and she's not trying to belong here either. She never talks to any of us except dozy old Agnes, and what she sees in her is a mystery. I can't stand the way she holds herself, as though she's so much better than the rest of us. Who does she think she is? The Queen of Sheba? She might have worked in a fancy household once, but she's nothing more than a commoner. Oh, how cruel she is. She might be whispering, but it's clear she wants you to hear it. She might be pretty, but beneath that face, she's nothing more than a monster. Do you really think so? Yes, she's so wicked it makes my blood boil. I don't know how you can stand it. Oh, I've my ways. Henny replied vaguely while wiping down the many windows and laid into the hallways. She might be an ill-tempered creature, but so are a lot of people, especially pretty ones. I'm prepared to bet that her mind was complimented one too many times when she was a youngster, and it's inflated her sense of self-worth beyond all reasonable measure. I don't think she's evil, though, and she's certainly no monster. Her mind was no Magdalena, white of limb and red of eye, with incisors sharp enough to bite through bones. Henny did not care for her mind, but she would not deny that she was human. She was a human. Even the bandits who had murdered Lord and Lady Von Essen had been humans, albeit amoral ones. Magdalena, meanwhile, was something else altogether. Well, maybe you're right. I do think she's a bully, though. Try though I might, I just can't bring myself to like her. I think that's fair. I don't like the prissy miss very much myself, but I've suffered worse than things than her silly insults. They don't really bother me. This was true, too. Henny had long since learned that, though her mind talked a lot, none of the things she said was worth listening to. It was all silly gossip, really. I really want Horror Podcast to start selling themed lighters as merch. Even just the Magnus Archives and Malevolent would be amazing. I mean, I'm not sure if you need like a special license to sell lighters because they're technically a flammable product. In the same way that you need license to sell things like paper for rolling cigarettes and other paraphernalia. So maybe they could sell lighter cases or like cigarette cases, but they can't sell the actual lighters. But I know you can go on Etsy and you can get like engraved lighters made for you, and those do look very cool. Like, I personally don't smoke, but I like the idea of keeping a lighter in my backpack or in my purse. Her mind treated everybody poorly, even the sycophantic scullery maids who buzzed about her, believing that they were friends. Her mind, in all her petty cruelty, seemed not the sort of person who was capable of having friends. She had only acolytes and acquaintances. Once more, Henny wondered why Walter Gerhard put up with her. But that, she supposed, was largely irrelevant. Her mind spent that Sunday flouncing about and flipping her hair over her shoulders, as opposed to doing any real work, which eventually earned her Gertrude's ire. Nosy old hag. Her mind cursed after receiving a stern talking to from the housekeeper over her conduct. What's her problem? I swear she has something against me, and I've ever even done anything to her. She's such a bitch. Henny, for her part, rather enjoyed seeing her mind get scolded, and not just because she felt her mind deserved it, which she did. The fracas between her mind and Gertrude had afforded Henny an opportunity to slip a ring of keys from Gertrude's pocket, keys which would be useful when she would have to leave later that night. She only hoped Gertrude would not spy they were missing, not until she had successfully met with Johann. That would scupper her plans. Henny attended to her chores with bated breath, waiting for Gertrude to bear upon them, nostrils flared, spitting queries about the thief in their midst. To her immense relief, however, nothing happened. The day wore on without further event, and eventually the sun began to sink beneath the horizon. The working day thus finished, the maids were dismissed by Gertrude, and they soon retreated to the servants' quarters. A few of the maids played a game of cards among themselves, while another busied herself with some knitting. Agnes, meanwhile, stole to Henny's side and softly said, "So, now will you tell me what happened? What did Father Devorak say?" "He didn't say much at all, really, other than that he was sorry for my plight. We didn't decide on any particular plan of action, but he did ask me to come back to the church tonight, so we can talk more properly." "Properly?" Agnes's brow furrowed. "Why couldn't you talk earlier?" "He said he had an acquaintance he wanted me to meet, who would only be around later. Apparently she's the one who'll be able to help me." "An acquaintance, is it?" She must be an odd sort of acquaintance if she'll only speak to people after sundown, but I trust Father Devorak. My money's on the acquaintance is a vampire. And so she has vampiric strength enough to go up against Magdalena, and that's why he's like, I'm gonna wait until it's after dark and my friend can come speak to you. If he says he can help you, then surely... if he says she can help you, then surely she must. Zooey Red Fox, thank you so much for the £5 donation towards mermaids. Thank you so much for your support. Every little bit goes a long way. We're at £165 now, almost at 200. We are getting bit by bit closer to reaching our goal. Thank you so much, Zooey Red Fox, for your donation. Thank you, you're incredible. He's not the sort to send people out on a wild goose chase. Oh, I certainly hope not. Henny sighed dolorously, then looked out the window at Walter's lushly sprawling garden and the street beyond it. The sun had already sunk below the horizon, and the roofs of the house looked very dark indeed, almost sinister. I have a lot of expectations riding upon tonight's visit with your favourite father, if he lets me down after all this. I'm sure he won't. You should have more faith, and so will I. I'll be wishing you well. Not that my wishes mean too much, I suppose. I know I'm just a stupid girl, like her mind says, but I really do want the best for you. I know you do. And don't you fuss too much about what her mind says. I know I don't. Nothing she says is worth much. How could it be when her head is emptier than a hot air balloon? Agnes started to giggle at this, which alerted Hermione's attention. She broke off mid-complaint, the words "that bitch" still stapled to her lips, and glowered at the two women stood by the window. And what, may I ask, is so very funny? Would you mind sharing with the rest of us? Oh, it's nothing really, Hermione. I'm sorry. If it really was nothing, you wouldn't have been laughing. And why are you apologizing? You haven't been telling tales on me to our new friend, have you, Agnes? No, I would never. I hope for your sake that you wouldn't. It would be very silly to make an enemy out of me. I might not seem like much, but being but a scullery maid, but I have friends in high places. If I wanted to, I could easily make your life a living hell. She's totally sleeping with the man of the house. Hermione is absolutely sleeping with Mike's fiance. I've already forgotten his name. But she is 110% sleeping with him. Or they have some kind of arrangement. She looks just like Mike. He was so quick to be dismissive of, like, you know, Mike's dead, whatever. Like, I'm still, like, getting down and dirty with the scullery maid. God damn it. This piece of shit. From Zoe Red Fox, I wish I could go on in a rant, but I just need to say, living in Brazil, the country that takes the most trans lives in the world, it's tough, especially when you're dating a trans girl like I am. But if it wasn't for her, I doubt I have the strength to keep going as I do now, so whenever I can help, I'll do my best to. Zoe Red Fox, that is so incredibly kind of you to say, and I sincerely wish the best for you and your wonderful partner. Thank you so much for donating to Mermaids. It really does mean a lot. And I'm limited in the breadth of my platform, but I want to try to use it to do good when I can. And honestly, every little bit goes a really, really long way. Thank you so much, Siri Red Fox, for sharing such a personal story with us. And I'm really, really touched that you feel so comfortable being a part of my community. And I do sincerely hope all the best for you and your partner. I hope the two of you are staying safe. I might not seem like much, being but a scullery maid, but I have friends in high places. If I wanted to, I could easily make your lives a living hell. Please don't try my patience. Bitch. 1 second. Just need to adjust my lighting so I look less pale. I won't. I promise. Very good. Keep out of mischief now. And you too, Henrique. I don't know what you two are up to, always ducking your heads together and murmuring. But I don't like it. If you keep this up, I'll tell Herr Gerhard about you, and you'll be out on your ear quicker than blinking. I don't think Herr Gerhard needs an excuse to throw me out of his home. That's it, Herr Gerhard, that was it. Because I was thinking, like, no, Gertrude is the, like, head housekeeper, but it started with a G, so it's Herr Gerhard. I don't think Herr Gerhard needs an excuse to throw me out of his home. He's been chomping at the bit already. Well, I agree with you on that. You shouldn't even be here. Why Herr Gerhard lets you stay with us is a mystery. If you were pretty, I could at least understand it, but that couldn't be further from the truth. You're so plain I can't imagine any man ever wanting you. Your brush with death is your only claim to fame, and the shock of that will soon wear off. When it does, you can bet you won't be here much longer. That suits me just fine. I don't intend to stay here much longer. Henny turned her back on Hermine, and Hermine turned her back on Henny, and the unease which had brewed between them settled. For the time being, at least. Sighing, Henny leaned her elbows upon the windowsill and looked out at the sky. She had no desire to be drawn further into Hermine's pettiness. What did her mind matter when Mike was still shut away in Magdalena's abode, suffering? So, Agnes spoke softly, so as to not be overheard once again by the malcontent in Hermine. Are you going to meet Father Devorak later? Of course. I've got to hear him out, at least. I know I'm interested in this assistant of his. Me too. I had no idea he even had an assistant. He might have some trouble slipping out undetected, though. The doors are all locked at sundown, and only the most senior staff members have keys. I thought that might be the case, but not to worry. Henny smiled as she patted her pocket, feeling the grooves of Gertrude's keychain through the fabric of her skirt. I should be fine. I hope so, Enrique. Oh, do take care of yourself. Don't get caught when you're sneaking out, and don't get lost on your way to the church, and... Don't speak to any strange men? Henny chuckled. I know, don't fret. I'll head straight to the church once the bells toll for midnight, and I'll head straight back once more I finish with Father Devorak. I'll be just fine, so don't wait up for me. There's yet more work to be done tomorrow, and her mind will lay into if you stay awake late. Oh, she always lays into me. Not that she has much room to talk. She's such a hypocrite. Yes, I had noticed. Try not to pay her too much heed. It's hard not to when she talks so much, and that shouldn't be too hard tonight at least. Rather than worry about her, I'll be too busy thinking of you. I can pray for you too if you'd like, if you think it would help. Agnes. Henny smiled, touched anew by the young girl's concern. Nobody in Walter Gerhard's residence seemed to care overly much about Henny, or about her missing mistress, except for Agnes. Henny was glad she had found at least one ally in Walter's inhospitable household. It was one more ally than she had expected, and it made her feel less alone. Thank you. You're very sweet. Okay. The hour wore on, and the maids began to tire. Yawns spread between them as they brushed their hair and played cards. Yawns which were as contagious as any illness. Hermione rose from her bed, then stripped herself of her maid's attire and into her nightgown, which prompted a further flurry of undressing. Henny too changed into a nightgown and slipped away beneath her covers. She did not want any of her fellow maids, particularly the eagle-eyed Hermione, guessing at her plans. She lay abed, curled upon her side, and waited for what seemed like an interminable time, until the room was full of snoring. Once Henny was sure everyone was fast asleep, she rose, then changed once more into her maid's dress, it being the only outfit she had. She changed quickly, under the cover of darkness, fearful of making a sound. Her heart thumped all the while, and Gertrude's keys sat heavy in her pocket, a physical manifestation of her crimes. She would be in a lot of trouble if her thievery was discovered. She would be put in the stocks at the very least, and perhaps imprisoned, either in a jail or in an asylum, as Walter had threatened. But Henny knew she couldn't let such threats unsettle her. It was too late to fuss about returning the key to its rightful owner. She had it, and with it she had a way of escaping Walter Gerhard's home. She could not afford to miss her appointment with Johann in the church. Henny was still doubtful whether he could really help her, but he was the only lead she had. It was either him or nothing. Newly dressed, Henny paused at Agnes's bed. To Henny's surprise, Agnes was still awake. Her eyelids fluttered, and then in the dark she murmured, "Good luck out there, Enrique." "Thank you very much, but remember my earlier warning. You really don't need to wait up for me. You young girls need your beauty sleep. And you don't need to keep me calling me Enrique either. I've always found it too formal. Henny is fine." "All right then, Henny. Stay safe." "I will. I always do. Surviving is one of my talents." So saying, Henny slipped from the servants' quarters. She shut the door soundlessly behind her, without giving the room a backwards glance, not even to wave Agnes goodbye. Now her thoughts were filled with nothing but Make. Henny crept down the stairs, then crossed the narrow servants' hallway to the kitchen. Her footsteps sounded uncomfortably loud in the silence when she encountered nobody during her trek, to her relief. She was quite alone. Henny eventually made it to the back door, where deliveries were made. Henny thought it better to quit the house here, where it was less likely she would be uncovered by any passers-by out during a late-night stroll. Henny drew the pilfered keyring from her pocket with trembling fingers, then inserted the key into the hole. She tried to turn it, but it was soon met with resistance. The door refused to budge. She must have selected the wrong key from the chain. Henny clicked her tongue, then tried another key. This too refused to turn the lock, as did the next, and the next, and the next. Each key Henny tried resulted in further failure, which made her imagination race. What if the key chain she had swiped from Gertrude's pocket was the wrong one? There were many keys on the chain, all heavy, clunky pieces made from iron, but there was no guarantee any of them led outside. Cold, hard panic now began to settle inside the pit of Henny's stomach. Her palms sweaty, Henny tried another key, the eighth if she had been keeping count, which she hadn't. She turned the key in the lock, expecting nothing but... Oh! This key, unlike the rest, did turn, and smoothly too, like butter. The lock clicked and the door swung open, cool air rushing forth to meet Henny like an old friend. Excuse me. Thanking both her lucky stars and her deft fingers, Henny stepped out onto the street. She closed the back door behind her, locking it, then set out into the night. Augsburg's streets were still unfamiliar to Henny, but she remembered the way to St. Cecilia's. She had ingrained into her consciousness during the trek there earlier that morning with Agnes, lest she should be required to return. Henny had not imagined that Jeroen would ask her to come back so soon. Or so late, she supposed, as she glanced up at the moon. The moon was not yet full, but soon it would be. It hung above the roofs of all the fine houses, lighting their chimney stacks and the wrought iron railings which fenced in their fine gardens. Henny hurried on, her footsteps echoing about the streets. She prayed as she walked that she did not run into anybody. Not that she knew many people in Augsburg. The city was strange to her, the people even more so. The wind brushed against Henny's exposed cheeks and her fingers, so she shivered. It was early autumn, but it was uncommonly cold for it. It seemed the winter, when it arrived, would be frigid. Henny had thought little of the coming months, however, being so steeped in the thoughts of the past. How could she plan for the future when she knew not how Make was? Henny's heart beat in tandem with each footstep against the cobbles, and with each monotonous strike of her heels she thought of Make. Please, let it not be too late. Please, God, I'm begging you, let me find my Make. Alright, we have our second Pick My Voice of the evening, requesting the deliciously dark Night Angel from Sapphic Scaracomi, and of course, I would be more than happy to indulge. If we can be reunited, I'll ask of nothing more from you, not for as long as I live. It was fortunate for Henny's nerves, which were now stretched to their breaking point, that St. Cecilia's was not so very far away from Walter's home. She arrived there in under 10 minutes, though it felt longer. Henny had been so entrenched in her anxious musings that time itself seemed to slow for a trickle, Henny's every footstep far too slow despite her hurried gait. The stained glass windows of the church were dark when Henny approached it, and the imposing wooden door was tightly shut. At a glance, it seemed to be closed, even to the most godly of its congregation, the priest within abed. Henny hoped that this was all subterfuge, and Jeroen had not forgotten their promise. Henny approached the wooden doors with faltering steps, more anxious than she had been during the flight from Walter's home, and raised her fist. It was with cautious eyes that she glanced about, searching the streets for any signs of life, but she found nobody. The streets were not wholly quiet. Henny could hear the sounds of drunken revelry from a nearby tavern, but the streets upon which St. Cecilia stood was abandoned, the shops all closed and the lights in their windows extinguished. The breeze nudged Henny's arm, as though spurning her onwards. She looked up at the wooden door which towered before her, as though to test her. She swallowed, tasting the cold air on her tongue. Then She knocked. Henny knocked hesitantly, fearful of awaking the people in the neighbouring houses. Unfortunately for her, however, the sound of her knocking seemed much too loud, almost as loud as the erratic beating of her heart. Henny waited fitfully, shifting from foot to foot, yet heard no noises from within the church. Was Jeroen not there? Had he forgotten about her? Perhaps he had simply fallen asleep while waiting, or maybe he had not heard her. Henny chanced another series of knocks, more loudly this time. She rapped and rapped until her knuckles felt sore, throwing caution to the wind until... Frau Enrique, so you did come back. I was beginning to wonder. The door opened with a low groan, and there stood Jeroen, illuminated by a sliver of worn candlelight which burned in the church behind him. How am I, my little star? I am... doing well. They're still lingering in the basement, stewing over our words, and the lingering tension between us. Whisper has been sycophanting as usual. She's dutiful, which is admirable and much appreciated about her, but she can be a bit much at times, I must say. He looked as though he had during Henny's initial meeting of the man, though Henny thought he was taller than she had recalled. Jeroen's neat dark hair was parted at the front, revealing a high forehead which spoke of learning, and his brown eyes were soft and gentle. You kept me waiting such a long while, I was worried you might have forgotten our arrangement. Hayden Murray was beginning to nag me about it, but not that that's anything new. She teases every chance she gets, wicked creature that she is. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to keep you. It took a while before I was able to slip away. I don't think the other maids would care to know that I'd gone off for a midnight stroll, or her Gerthard. Ah, yes, I understand. We all have our own circumstances. Excuse me, my little stars. Ah, yes, I understand. We all have our own circumstances. I apologize if I put you in a tight spot. It's no problem. I imagine you've a good reason for wanting to meet me so late, no matter how inconvenient it is. Now, who's this Hayden Marie you spoke of? Is she your assistant? And with that, we come to the end of That Pick My Voice. Thank you so much, Scaracomi, for requesting Night Angel. She is a delight, as always. I hope you and your lovely girlfriend enjoy that. Eventually, the vitamin deficiency from not seeing the sun for months is going to catch up with you and Little Star. Oh, no. We're both heroes. Well, they're both heroes, I should say. They have stamina for days and nights ahead. That's what makes them so durable. Now, who is this Hayden Marie you spoke of? Is she your assistant? How's my lighting going? That's a bit better. Oh, yes, that's right. She's here now to say hello to you, though I think she'll be rather cross that I took the wind from her sails. I want to see who this assistant is. What does she look like? What does the art look like? Knowing her, she would have wanted to introduce herself. She's really very... Okay, what voice should I do? Jeroen, have you quite finished talking yet? I'm getting bored. It's rude to keep a lady waiting, you know. Yes, my apologies. Do come away from the door, Frau Enrique. It's freezing tonight. I'd hate for you to catch your death of cold. Come and warm yourself. You can meet Hayden Marie while you're at it, and then you may tell her all that you've told me. I'm sure she'll be interested in your tale. Henny thanked Jeroen, then entered the church, skirting the priest as she did so. St. Cecilia's looked much like it had during the daylight, with its vaulted ceiling and its stained glass windows. The darkness rendered it eerie, however, the rows of pews drowned in shadows. Henny glanced about, unsure of who she should be searching for. Then, with wide eyes, she stilled. A figure had been sitting upon one of the pews, though it rose to its feet upon hearing Henny's approach and curtsied neatly. The figure was a diminutive one, so small in fact it made Henny start. Oh, she's cool. She's absolutely a vampire. She's cool. I like her. The girl who stood before her, Henny could not think of her as a woman, was evidently young, perhaps 9 or 10 years of age. If she was double in digits, it must have been only barely. Her skin was pale white, even in the flickering candlelight, and her hair was fair and wavy, all ringlets. The girl's eyes, meanwhile, were wide and staring, and her irises were a shocking hue which made Henny gasp. They were not blue or green or even dark grey. They were gold instead, and seemed to shine even brighter in the candlelight. The girl's eyes were even more sinister than Magdalena's. Are you Hayden, Marie?
Yes, that's right. Didn't Johann say as much? My name is Hayden Marie, and you are Frau Henrique, yes?
Yes, that's me.
Then you must be the woman Johann and I have been waiting for. It is very good to meet you, although you don't seem to share my sentiments. Why do you shrink from me so, a grown woman like yourself? Don't tell me you're afraid. Just look at how small I am. You're nothing at all to be scared of. I don't bite. At least, not that much.
If Ida Marie's eyes had not made it immediately apparent, then those teeth of hers, sharp as knives, served as the final nail in the proverbial coffin. Hayden Marie was not an ordinary little girl. She was inhuman.
Good God, you're just like her.
Like who?
Like the creature that captured my mistress. You're another monster.
A monster, am I? Is that what you think? Hayden Marie surveyed Henny, her smile unwavering. Holding one hand beneath her chin, the young girl tilted her head and said,
I suppose I should take offense, but that might not be entirely inaccurate. To a human like you, I probably seem like a monster. I won't deny I'm capable of some rather wicked things, but Johann keeps me on a tight leash. He'll be the first to tattle on me should I step out of line to his superiors in the church, and then I'll be in trouble. If anybody knows how to strike fear into the hearts of the nigh on immortal, it's these boring men in their clerical robes. But then, does that mean you really are a vampire? Naturally. How many ordinary humans do you know with eyes as bright as mine or teeth as sharp? I was a human once upon a time, but that feels a very, very long time ago now. I doubt the vampire you've quarrelled with. Oh, don't look so shocked. Johann told me all about it. Can hold a candle to me. I've been alive, if you can care to call it that, for I don't know, I've lost count. Mathematics has never been my strong suit, and it's been such a long time my mind fails me. I think it must have been at least 400 years at this point, though. 400?
It has been about that long, yes. Hayden Marie is prone to exaggerating, but she's being truthful on this score. She is an ancient vampire, one of the oldest, or so the church believes, in all Europe.
Tut tut!
Hayden Marie clicked her tongue.
It's not polite, you know, to talk about a lady's age in so cavalier a manner. If we didn't have a guest over, I'd bite you for your insolence, Johann.
And it isn't polite, strictly speaking, to threaten people that you disagree with. Reminds me of, I think you meant to say Claudia. Reminds me of Claudia from the interview with the vampire. She's giving those vibes, definitely, especially with all the gold ringlets and everything. Not that you've ever cared about minding your own manners.
I care enough not to terrify our poor guest out of her wits, though I'm afraid my attempts at magnanimity are not working. She's shaking like a leaf. Are you alright, Frau Henrique? You aren't about to faint, are you? I know this must be an awful lot to swallow.
A lot to swallow is right. This is impossible.
If you really are a vampire, then what are you doing in a church? And why are you acting so familiar with the Father? Oh, dearie me, why could that be, I wonder? Why don't you let me elucidate, Fraulein? I may be a vampire, and an ancient vampire at that, but I'm no mindless monster who can think of nothing but her next meal. I've had my fill of screaming humans and flowing blood, so you can rest easy. I've tasted blood better than yours in the past, I'm certain of that. I've drunk so much of it, in fact, I've just about gotten sick of it. Which is for the best, I suppose. If I kept up my rampaging ways, the church would have seen to me like that. Hayden made a gesture, now against her neck, one which signified execution. I've been working for the church for over a century, my servitude in exchange for my continued life, and I've curtailed my bloodlust accordingly. I sup only on those whom I've permission to feed upon, namely the lucky members of the clergy who've been tasked with taking care of me. I'll only bear these fangs of mine for Johann. Does that satisfy your concerns, Fraulein?
Okay, it's kind of giving, like, the arrangement, I'm assuming, is more like Helsing, kind of. Although it's less, like, in service of Queen and Country and more, like, tied with the church. Like, having a couple of vampires in the back catalogue. So she's probably maybe closer then to, like, Father Alexander Anderson, that she's like, except she's a vampire, and it's just like, here's a target, go and kill this thing. God, I need to rewatch Helsing.
Does that satisfy your concerns, Fraulein?
Well...
Oh, please. Hayden snorted. Don't tell me that you're still afraid. Of course you have to flee from a collared dog tied to a post.
Hayden is telling the truth. She has a lot of bark, but no bite. Well, Johann chuckled softly. Her bite is rather formidable, but I'm the only one who has to suffer its consequences. You will be perfectly safe. Abridged or official? The official series. Helsing Ultimate in particular, because it's a more faithful adaptation of the manga. I understand that you might fear her, but I've worked with her for almost 4 years, and she's never once given me any trouble. Beyond her tendency to answer back, that is.
There, you see? I'm good as gold. Why, my heart might even be as pure as a saint's.
Excuse me. I don't know if I'd go quite that far. Most saints don't have pasts as bloody as yours.
But it is all in the past, Johann. Well and truly. Almost 2 centuries in the past, in fact. I've helped the church hunt down many, many vile vampires, and I've saved scores of screaming virgins. I've done more than a lot of your silly Christian saints ever did, martyring themselves for no good reason. At least I actually get things done.
I like her spunk.
Why would the church send a vampire to fight other vampires, though? It makes no sense.
It kind of makes perfect sense, though. Because, I mean, if you're in a world where, like, vampires are one of the biggest monsters out there, you would try and get vampires on your side to essentially fight fire with fire.
Doesn't it?
Hayden raised an eyebrow.
Do you know what they say, Fraulein, about fighting fire with fire?
Words I literally just said.
The same holds true here. We vampires are a formidable race with unparalleled speed and strength. Johann would stand no chance against a vampire, being a bumbling human of limited physical strength, but I can make short work of the wicked Nightwalker who has kidnapped your mistress. Of that, I promise you.
Would you really be able to do that?
It's well within my abilities. My past record ought to speak for itself. When it comes to hunting vampires, Hayden is second to...
When it comes to hunting vampires, Hayden is second to none. If you wish to rescue your mistress, then we must rely upon her. I know you might find her disagreeable, but she's more trustworthy than she appears. She really has been an indispensable ally to me.
Why, Johann, you flatter me. If you continue to be so complimentary, I may have to reward you in turn. Would you like me to bite you? Just a little? I've heard some people find it therapeutic.
Oh, do behave yourself. What happened to trying to make our guest feel welcome? Besides, biting him is my job. Jeroen tutted, then turned back to Henny. So, what do you think? Will you consent to letting Hayden help you?
Well, You'll say yes if you really love your mistress, no matter how many misgivings you might have. You can spurn me if you wish. You wouldn't be the only one, but you'll only be hurting yourself in the long run. You shouldn't cut off your nose to spite your face, Fraulein, even if it is rather lumpy. You need me more than I need you.
Henny stood still for several moments, dithering, her heart hammering like a war drum within her breast. She hadn't imagined that Jeroen's acquaintance might be another vampire, one who seemed even more fearsome than Magdalena. It was all a lot to take in. She was still reeling, hurt by Jeroen's lack of transparency, stung by Hayden Marie's impish words, and, yes, afraid to be in such close proximity of yet another godless creature. Up until 2 weeks prior, Henny had not known vampires existed. Now she had learned to fear them. Looking at Hayden Marie made Henny's blood run cold, but so too did the memory of what Magdalena had done to those bandits. Gonna say bastards. It was impossible that a human could contend with such strength, but Hayden Marie was not a human. As a fellow vampire, perhaps she could overwhelm Magdalena. It was worth a try, at least. If anything was for Make's sake.
Alright, I'm prepared to trust you, Henny Marie, despite my misgivings. I'll leave my mistress's safety in your hands. And what capable hands I have! So fair and slender, like 2 lovely lilies. Thank you for your vote of confidence, Fraulein. You're most kind.
Hayden Marie took her ornate skirts in both hands, then dropped a curtsy.
I would be more than happy to assist you with your little problem. It's been a while since I went on a hunt, and I've been fitfully bored. Before that, however, I would propose a plan.
What sort of plan?
Will you not go and rescue Make? Of course. But tonight would be a poor time for it. My services haven't been required in some time, and I've been spending most of my time sleeping to conserve my energy. I need a few days to rejuvenate. And no small amount of blood.
Hayden Marie looked to Jeroen, then grinned unpleasantly as a gargoyle might.
I hope you've prepared. It would be most unfortunate for all of us if you were to collapse upon me.
You're concerned about me. How kind of you. That makes quite the change from usual. Oh, thank you for the hydrate check. Yeah, it would be really interesting if it turned out that Hayden Marie was... Because my suspicion is that the mistress that's in the castle with Magdalena and Make is like the progenitor vampire of Magdalena and also maybe Hayden Marie. And so when Hayden Marie realizes, oh shit, it's Magdalena, then some shit's gonna go down maybe. I don't know. You needn't worry about my resilience, however. I will be quite alright.
Huh, that's what I like to hear. You religious men might be boring, but at least you're strong. You're no strangers to suffering, I'll grant you that.
The Lord does send us these trials to test us. Jeroen smiled wryly, while Hayden Marie scoffed.
Yes, but it wouldn't be your precious lord who's going to make a meal out of your neck, you dingbat.
You can be so cruel sometimes.
I used to be crueler. I'm afraid I've lost my edge spending so much time with you. You're a terrible influence. Now, shall we pursue this wicked vampire in 1 week's time, upon the night of the full moon? My powers should then be at their peak. None should be able to stop me.
They do say that pride comes before a fall, you know.
To lesser mortals perhaps, but not to me, since when have I ever failed in my duties?
I suppose you have a point there.
I always do.
Smiling smugly in the manner of all young children who had successfully managed to outwit an adult, Hayden Marie looked back to Henny, one hand resting upon her hip.
I shall bid you auf Wiedersehen for the present, Fraulein. The hour is advanced, and while we vampires thrive in the dark, you humans need your rest. Do not be a stranger, though, I beg of you. I will require your services when the appointed day comes, so you can guide me into the woods to the abode of this vampire. Do you need me to stick around, then? Isn't that what I just said? Do try to listen. We'll never get anywhere if I'm obliged to continuously repeat myself.
Worry not, please. I'm sure you must be nervous, wandering into the woods so late at night, but you will be quite safe. I will be with you too, to ensure that Heidenbury doesn't get up to any mischief.
As if I would. You wound me, Johann.
Heidenbury pouted, but it seemed put on, too theatrical to be heartfelt. Did Heidenbury even have a heart in her possession, tucked away inside her ribcage, which continued to beat? Henny wouldn't have been surprised if the ravages of time had turned it to dust.
This vampire's abode will most likely be concealed from prying eyes with some sort of glamour. If you're able to bring me to the rough location, however, I should be able to see past all her trifling enchantments. This silly little vampire will be in for quite a rude awakening indeed. Oh, I can't wait to see the look of surprise on her face until I slice it off her skull. This is going to be so much fun!
Henny's nerves were disorderly as the cargo hold of the mercantile ship during a storm. Henny's nerves were as disorderly as the cargo hold of a mercantile ship during a storm as she crept through Osberg streets, blanketed by the inky darkness. The sounds of her footsteps on the cobblestones seemed to echo through the dark night which she navigated. Henny could hear the faint sound of revelries in the distance as swathes of drunken men consorted in the alehouses, but Henny kept her distance. She had no desire to speak to anyone at the present, particularly not leery, overly talkative sots soused with beer and cider. She's great. I like her. It's going to be interesting when this story gets to its climax, but she's cute. I love me like a cheeky little impish child vampire. They could be a lot of fun. Henny thought it inappropriate that public houses should be open during Sundays at all, when it was supposed to be a day of rest. But she had little room to judge. She too had spent her Sunday running errands, but said errands had been of a clerical nature. She had spent the midnight hours in a church, consorting with a priest. What could be more respectable than that? There was Heidenbury to consider too, Henny supposed, but she wasn't sure what to think about her. Heidenbury was a strange, unnerving creature, one whose existence seemed to spit in the face of God himself. Henny could recall with startling clarity that stark paleness of Heidenbury's skin and her unnerving irises, gold, just like fields of wheat, or expensive jewellery. Though Heidenbury was smaller than Magdalena, and very clearly younger, they must have been cut from the same cloth. Two were like monsters with unlike professions. Magdalena kidnapped ladies for sport and drained them of their blood. Heidenbury, meanwhile, seemed determined to help them. Henny wasn't sure whether she could trust Heidenbury. Her knowing smile had been disconcerting, but she did trust Johann. He appeared to be every inch the gentleman Agnes had told her, even-tempered and eager to help. If he could keep Heidenbury in hand, then perhaps they would really be able to find and rescue Mike. That was what Henny wanted to believe. She did not like to think that her efforts to help Mike were all in vain, nor that she was too late. Henny knew she could not discount the possibility. It had been over a fortnight since Mike had been taken a prisoner, but neither did she want to dwell upon it. She had allies now, though she had found them in an unlikely place, and things would soon be set into motion. With Heidenbury and Johann's help, she would venture into the woods, and she would find Magdalena's home once more. There they would confront the wicked vampire who had imprisoned Mike, and they would save her. Like a fairy tale, everything would end happily ever after. Though the fairy tale Henny's mother had told her as a child had rarely ended like that. The fairy tales imported from France, such as Cinderella, had ended cheerfully enough, with goodness reigning triumphal in royal weddings, where the homespun tales which originated in German soil were of a less cheery bent. Indeed they are very dark. Those tales have been full of dead or dying children, basins of body parts and heads lopped off. Henny shivered as the cold wind nipped her fingers. No, she would not think of that. Mike wasn't dead. She couldn't be dead. If she lost faith in Mike now, she would be no better than Walter. He had given up on his fiancée earlier than most freaks might have, but Henny would not. She had known Mike since they had been children, and she believed, by God how earnestly she wanted to believe, that Mike still lived. Meike might have appeared frail, but she was not the sort to simply give in. She had more panache than her pale complexion would have credited. Okay, speaking of dark fairy tales, a few weeks ago I watched The Ugly Stepsister, which is a new adaptation of the Cinderella story, but told mostly from focusing on the elder of the two ugly stepsisters, and it's one of the best horror movies I've seen in a while. It's grim, it's graphic, it's gross in a lot of ways, but honestly, it's fantastic. One of the best, like, newer horror movies I've seen in a while, and some really messed up body horror in the best way possible. It feels like there's... I don't want to, like, call to mind the substance, because it's definitely not super, like, over-the-top theatrical in terms of the way the substance has, like, a lot of really, like, specific kind of body horror, but... Oh, it's really good. It's really, really good. It's more about talking about the sacrifices or what women will do to their bodies for the sake of beauty and to try and adhere to absolutely ridiculous beauty standards and the really gross, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Patriarchal standards of that particular time, which I think was... not 1700s, but like maybe 1600s or something like that in Germany. Very, very good though. Very, very good. The performances are excellent. Also very sexually explicit, so don't watch it with your parents. The first thing that pops up is, okay, so that's not a spoiler because it's in like the teaser and it's like part of the marketing is, you'll see the post if you look Ugly Stepsister horror movie like 2025. It's like of a young woman with curly ringlets with like a thing on her nose. So it's not a lobotomy. She's getting her nose reshaped with a chisel. So that is like an indicator of the kind of body horror you get. You see it like up close with all the sounds and everything, and you hear bones snapping in her nose as they like break her nose to try and like refix it. Well, not refix it, but reconfigure the bones into something more aesthetically pleasing. And it's so fucked up. But it's such a good movie. If you have a strong stomach, I will say maybe look up content warnings because especially there's a lot of really gross stuff. I won't go into spoilers, but there's just a lot of gross shit in it, but it's really good. Alrighty, let's continue. Meike might have appeared frail, but she was not the sort to simply give in. She had more panache than her pale complexion would have credited. That was why Meike and her mother had always been at loggerheads. Lady Von Essen had not known what to do with her child, who had been so infuriatingly willful. Lady Von Essen had thought that Meike's stubbornness was a defect, but Henny had always thought otherwise. Henny loved Meike for her fierceness. She would always accept her mistress, though her parents and later her fiancé had not. That was why she had meant to try so hard for Meike's sake. She would do anything to ensure her mistress's safety, even lacerate her souls upon a sea of broken glass. Oh, I really hope that doesn't come to pass. It was not glass, fortunately, which Henny had to navigate, but cobblestones, and they were far less precarious. Henny stole away to Walter Gerhardt's house, which looked larger and more imposing than ever in the shadows. Then she crept about to the back door, where the servants entered and exited. Unseen by all save the watchful moon, Henny slid her ill-gotten key into the lock and twisted it. The door soon gave way, swinging open, and Henny stepped inside. I have a sneaking suspicion for what might happen next, but I'm not going to say unless it happens. She locked the door behind her, stashed the keys away in her pocket, and removed her shoes, lining them up alongside those of her fellow maids. Quiet as an assassin, she crept through Walter's house. She navigated the kitchens and the servants' corridors until she came to the thin ribbon of oaken steps which led her to her own quarters. During her nighttime wanderings, Henny met with no opposition. It was past midnight and Walter's household was at rest, the magic of sleep infused into its very eaves. Even Gertrude, who was alert during the day, would now have been lying in her private quarters in her nightgown, dreaming of whatever it was housekeepers dreamt of, barking orders and making the scullery maids cry, most likely. Henny knew that Gertrude would be less than impressed when she discovered a set of her keys had gone missing. Henny would have to finagle some way of returning them unnoticed when the sun rose. But that could wait for later. Henny had more pressing concerns weighing upon her. She crept across the hallway, praying for the wooden floorboards not to creak or to give her away. She did not think Gertrude would take kindly upon knowing she had been skulking around at night, or Walter for that matter. Henny could hear Walter's officious tones now as he lounged at his escritoire, the master of all he surveyed. I take you into my home, and this is how you repay me? Sneaking out at odd hours like a common thief and stealing from Gertrude as you please? Have you no shame? I've tried to be patient with you, Frau Henrique, but this is the final straw. I want you gone from my house as soon as possible, before you've a chance to infect any of the other maids with your lousy conduct. Yes, Henny thought, that sounded about right, though something was missing from her phantasmal summoning of Walter Gerhardt. She hadn't peppered his speech with nearly enough Latin. Oh, thanks for the stretch check. Okay, so we made it back to the room. I was fully prepared for her to go walking past Walter's office and he's up in arms getting all hot and heavy with one of the maids or something, and then it's like the scandal, no! I'm still betting that that's gonna happen at one point, but I was just waiting, like, wait for it. Smiling to herself, Henny let herself into the room and sank upon her bed with a sigh of relief. She returned from her midnight rendezvous in one piece, and Walter Gerhardt's household was none the wiser. The other maids were all abed in their nightgowns, fast asleep. Hermione was turned over on one side, her copper-coloured hair spilling across her pillow, while Agnes was snuffling softly like a field mouse, her fingers curled at her side. Henny smiled at Agnes fondly, appreciative of all her aid. Then she prepared herself for bed. Henny stripped off her clothes, accompanied by the sounds of 6 girls all snoring, and changed into her nightgown. Nearly dressed, Henny slid beneath her covers. They were cold and icy against her bared arms and legs, and she shivered. Henny turned, hoping to sleep, all while fearing it was impossible, when... Henny? A voice called to Henny in the dark, soft and girlish, only barely audible above the sound of snoring. It was Agnes. Henny had thought her asleep, but she must have been more cunning than Henny had given her credit for. That, or her changing, had roused the girl from her uneasy slumber. Oh, Agnes! I thought I said you didn't have to stay up for me. I know you did, and I did try to sleep, really I did, but I couldn't. You took such a long time, I was afraid you wouldn't come back. The trees of Augsburg were so twisty and turny, and it's even worse in the dark. It gets scary out there when it's so late. I knew you'd be safe with Johann, but on your own. Agnes bit her lower lip. I'm glad you didn't get into any trouble. You didn't get into any trouble, did you? No, I didn't. As you can see, I'm quite alright. I kept my head down, my feet moving, and I didn't stop to talk to any strange men, other than Father Devorak at the church. Do you suppose he counts? Maybe a little bit. He is quite unusual for a priest, yes, but I'm very fond of him. Me too. I think he might be onto something there. So, what did he say? Did he agree to help you find your mistress? Henny nodded. He said it would be possible, but first he asked me to wait a few days. He said we'd have better luck rescuing Mickey, that is to say, my lady, when the moon is full. I can't say why exactly, but he seemed to know what he was talking about. Father Devorak always does. He knew just what to say to my mother when she was at her worst too. Excuse me. She was in such a bad way, I thought she'd never get better, but Father Devorak proved me wrong. He really can do the impossible, just you see. I'm sure he'll be able to rescue Lady Mackay. I'm sure he will. He is the professional when it comes to all these supernatural going-ons, or so it seems, so I'll leave it all up to him, and his assistant, I suppose. Oh yes, his assistant. You mentioned her earlier. What was she like? It's hard to describe her. I suppose she was very unusual. Unusual? She wasn't at all like what I expected. I think I can trust her, though. I'm glad to hear it. She asked me to guide her and Father Devorak into the woods, actually, to help them locate Mickey. So you're going to go back into the forest, after everything that happened? I have to, if I want to rescue Mickey. I don't have much of a choice. I'm also really worried that Agnes is going to get bullied and intimidated by Gustav, her Gustav, and maybe Hermione as well, and she's going to be like broken down emotionally until she just spills all the beans. I'm so worried about what's going to happen to Agnes.
I suppose, but aren't you nervous? I would be ever so. I don't know if I'd be able to bear it.
I'm sure we'll be fine, Henny said lightly, though in truth she didn't feel fine. She had many unpleasant memories attached to that forest, memories she would far rather forget. It had been in those woods that Lord and Lady Von Essen had lost their lives. Henny could still recall Lord Von Essen's rasping, dying breaths, Lady Von Essen's screams. There had been the flash of a blade, and then... I won't be alone. I'll be with Father Devorak. He promised to protect me.
Father Devorak can do anything, remember? Isn't that what you said? He's a miracle worker. I suppose so, yes. I know what magic he's capable of, but oh, Henny, please look after yourself. I would hate for you to get hurt after all you've been through. I think you've suffered enough.
Don't worry, Agnes. It'll take more than a few bandits to put the fear of God into me, or a few vampires for that matter. They can't scare me. Oh, well, they can. Henny corrected herself, seeing the doubt in Agnes's eyes. Hang on. A bit too bright. There we go. But I won't let them get to me. Make endured a lot for my sake, and I, as her maid, want to do the same for her. I'll do anything to see her again.
You really be willing to go that far?
Of course I would. Maikie's the most important person in the world to me. Her happiness is my happiness.
Oh, thanks for the hydrate check.
Ah, thank you, thank you. The thought of facing that infernal vampire is scary, but it's less scary than the thought of never seeing her again. I just want to know that she's alright. She's more than fine. She's great. She's just questioning her sexuality while being, like, even further down denial. I just want to know that she's alright. There's nothing in this world I want more than that. And there's nothing I won't endure for her sake. Okay, so I feel like this is a good point to wrap things up because we're coming up onto another time jump. So it feels like this is a good point because it goes into another week past, a week in which Henny has spent the anticipation of the full moon. This feels like it's a good point to wrap things up for tonight, and I think then that hits very neatly on 2 hours. Because I feel like if we keep going for a little bit longer, then we're going to get into like the next major plot beat, and I want to get to that. So let's wrap things up tonight because it's also still really hot in my apartment, and I really need a good night's sleep because I've been doing a lot of working on cool things today, and I'm taking... Okay, I actually am saying aloud, because I have said it to Bingus, I am taking tomorrow off to relax. I am doing my live narration for my Twitch subs and my Patreon supporters in the evening, but the rest of the day, it's all mine to just relax and unwind and have a grand old time. So, thank you so much for joining me tonight, my lovelies. A big thank you to everyone who donated towards Mermaids tonight. We managed to get another couple of pounds for this amazing charity, so thank you all so much to everyone who donated. Big thank you to everyone who renewed their subscriptions. Every little bit of support goes a really long way to help me cover my bills and everything. But let's wrap things up. This was wonderful. I hope you all had a wonderful time, my lovelies. And if you've been lurking in the shadows and you like what you've seen so far, then please consider following. We would love to have you back at the Blue Rose Respite. You're welcome anytime. Be sure to check out my other socials that are popping up in the chat right now, including my 2 YouTube channels, one for my ASMR tales and the other for my Twitch VODs, and my Blue Sky, my Insta, and my TikTok. I have an ongoing 24/7 broadcast over on my main YouTube channel, which is a collection of ASMR tales and creepypasta narrations, so be sure to check that out and give it some love. But let's see who's currently live, and we can go say hello. Why don't we go say hi to my wonderful friend Sean? Sean, Mendham is a very talented voice actor and performance capture artist who I met when I was doing my performance capture class at Target 3D, and Sean is the voice and performer of Scratch from Baldur's Gate 3, and he's currently streaming some Baldur's Gate 3, so I'm going to send you guys over to Sean because they are wonderful, they are very talented, they are a very, very cool person, and incredibly nice as in real life. So I'm going to send you guys over to Sean with a lot of love. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the week. I'm going to be looking forward to a week of chilling out, relaxing, doing all those good things. So I'm going to send you guys over to Sean. Have a wonderful weekend, my lovelies. I will see you on Monday for Date Everything. Yes, indeed, I'm going to be playing Date Everything on Monday, and I'm very excited to just look everywhere at all of the hotties we can date. And be sure to join me on Wednesday for more Vampire Therapist, and more on Friday. Actually, no, not next Friday, because I'm going to be out next Friday night. I'm going to be having a club night, so I'm going to need to save my energy for that. But I will see you on Monday and Wednesday next week for Date Everything and Vampire Therapist. But we have to do the raid now, so I'll see you next time, my lovelies. And remember, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, stay wicked and wonderful. Good night, my lovelies. Ah.